Hey everyone, Will Fleming here. Hang with me for a couple seconds before we get into the podcast. Welcome to Talk the Walk. And I just wanted to quickly tell you what this podcast is about. It's in schools. It's me podcasting with my friends in school to a group of students who I hope learn from the walking that these guests have done. I mean that metaphorically and in some cases physically. Not just people who say what they're doing, but they've done it. So in this series, in schools, I'm talking the walk with people who have walked the talk. Okay, enjoy.
David Neithe, high-performance coach that's helped the likes of Lydia, Adesanya, and so much more.
Mental performance coach. Did I get that right?
It. Yeah, well done.
Everybody, welcome to the Big Dave Show.
I really struggled to pay attention at school. In fact, in some cases, it was probably quite annoying. Education doesn't finish when you finish school here. Education is a lifelong pursuit. I realised, man, you're capable of more. Let's go.
Big Dave,
Hey, buddy.
You're joining me in the classroom today. Just for those wondering what the hell's going on, This is a podcast series called Talk the Walk, where I bring my friends in who are walking that talk or talking that walk. Before we go any further, Dave, you are a total stranger probably to most of these students. I want you to do an introduction in a way that they will get it. Who are you?
Okay, so who am I? I am a low-level student who struggled at school. I'm dyslexic. Who, proud to say, I was a Wesley College boy.
Don't make us edit this podcast, Dave.
So I'm a Wesley College boy who struggled at school. And later on, I was diagnosed as dyslexic. But what I'm very proud of is that I've overcome a lot of those challenges. And what I'm proud of is that I now, through my vision, have created a life by design. I work with some of the best athletes in the world, and I work worldwide. So some of you may have heard of some of the UFC fighters, Israel Adesanya. Okay, so I work with City Kickbox. Anyone seen Relentless on TV? TV Plus? No? Okay. So there's a whole lot of the story about City Kickbox. And so I work on the mental performance stuff for athletes. But on that journey, I left school at 16. And I tell you, one of the biggest regrets in my life is that I didn't pay as much attention to the education as I should have. That's a biggie for me. Or I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you little tidbits on this journey. And if you have pen and paper, please pull it out and start writing some of these tips down. Because three things, 3 steps to greatness. Number 1, set goals. Number 2, educate yourself. And 3, have a financial plan. That's what I applied. And for me, I left school at 16. I failed school cert, which is, what is it now?
NCEA 2, is it?
So NCR, so I failed both. So I was second year 5th, left school, and I basically got a job as a printer, which was a miserable job on minimum wage, and just thought, is this really my life? And for me, one of the most beautiful things is finding your passion. My passion was working with people because I worked on myself first. And here I am today. I have Olympic gold medalists. I have world champions. I have award-winning teams. I've worked with All Blacks, Warriors, right through to individuals.
What were those feelings you had when you were this age walking into school? Do you block those out now, or can you revisit that?
Yeah, I can. And for me, I really struggled to pay attention at school. In fact, in some cases, it was probably quite annoying for the teachers, which I regret now, because of the one thing. I think the most important thing for me is that when you went back to identity, I was constantly failing things. So through that loop of feedback, I created an identity that I'm thick, right? And the key thing is I started developing belief systems that supported that. And when you start creating that narrative, your mind will find evidence to prove it, right? So there's something about overcoming and learning how to learn. I'm currently at university. I'm doing a double degree in philosophy and psychology. And I'm proud to say, I put up a posted on Instagram. I talked about the power of affirmations, and I said, A+ is most like me. And I've been getting A's in my essays for philosophy. So I'm really proud of that. So your identity is constructed in such a way that it can actually limit you.
How is this not different to just two old people like us coming into a space of young people and telling them things that maybe in their minds they're like, BS, man. It can't be like that.
Oh,
tell me the science. Why do you believe it, and how can you say that?
Because I've experienced it. I've lived it. And I'll tell you something. One of the most important things to understand for me personally is that we're thrown into this world. We don't get to choose our circumstances, our parents, whatever. But I truly believe that life is about living. And I truly believe it's about becoming the best possible version of yourself. And when you start focusing in that way, it sparks a sense of curiosity. And I would encourage you all to be really curious about the things that you're passionate about, things that really excite you. For me, I got curious initially. So I left school, got a job as a printer, and you can imagine a little Palangi guy at Wesley College. And some of the 15 and 16-year-old boys there, 110 kgs with beards. And I used to get hammered, right? I got bullied really bad.
Yeah.
The first year was really tough on me. And people ask me, oh, if you could go back in time, would you change it? I go, no way. No way. I would endure that because it challenged me. And for me, it's about overcoming, right? So from that, I made a promise to myself, I ain't never going to be bullied again. And so what I decided to do is the only way I could deal with that is to become the biggest, strongest mother beep. Sorry. You can beep that out. Yeah. Mother beep I could possibly be, right? So I got stuck in the gym. And for probably a good 10 years, I trained with such conviction. I competed in the New Zealand Strongest Man competition. I've set records, the heaviest truck pull. I carried 180k anvils for 100 meters. I've deadlifted over 330 kgs. I've benched 220.
Okay, and back to me.
and what it was is that when you go on that journey, you start providing evidence that the story you were telling yourself as a young kid didn't apply anymore. Like I said, you trigger that curiosity. And so for me, I thought, well, if I can do it physically, and what I realized is when I was training with guys, they used to call me Staffy, right? Because I'm the sort of guy that if I sink my teeth into something, I'm not going to let go, right? And I'm highly competitive. So the guys used to train with me and they loved it because of the energy that I brought. And for me, I started realizing that it wasn't completely physical. On that journey, I realized more and more it's mental. So I went and researched. So here I am. And this is something really important for you guys to really appreciate. Carl Jung said something, where fear lies, there lies your task. So my fear was about academia and learning and intellect. So traditionally, I'm telling myself a bullshit story and I recognize I needed to change it. And on that journey, I went back to see a lady and I was diagnosed at 20 as dyslexic. And I am a real believer in, I hate labels. I do not want to be labeled, right? So I don't want it to become an excuse in life. I think it's too damn easy. People are quick to say, I'm dyslexic, so therefore it's hard for me to learn. Bull pucky. It's about applying yourself. So I learnt at 20 pretty much how to read and write again. From there, I then applied myself. I spent so much time in the library reading books. And believe me, I read at a very low rate, like this. But I knew that education was the key to changing my life. And it was huge for me. What it did for my confidence, my self-esteem. And again, you already appreciate it. At 21, I'm already about 140 kgs, 150 kgs. So I'm a big unit. But I'm really exploring everything. And like I said, the key to life, I think, is curiosity. If you're curious, and understand that as an individual, you are the most incredible project you'll ever work on. And for me, I became my own project that I'm really proud of. So it's about overcoming, and it's facing up to those fears. So you can imagine for me, academia. So I went and got educated in neurolinguistics and hypnotherapy. That's part of the reason why, doing the Strongman, I went and looked at what the mental side, what they were doing in sport back in the 80s and 90s. And the Russians were doing a lot of things like hypnosis and whatnot. So I went and investigated that, backed into neurolinguistics, which was a relatively new technology in the 80s. And then expanded from there. And it's been a continuing now for the last, 40 years. I'm 22 now. What?
We'll edit that bit. No.
Yeah.
Two things. One,
Yeah.
I've decided you get $10 worth of swear jar, right? So you said BS, that's $1. You got
Okay.
9 to go.
Am
Otherwise,
I won't.
and I know you have a good mouth on you, but we've got to keep it real because we're authentic. Secondly, what I think is really interesting is you're kind of suggesting that the things that you're not happy with in life, if you're young, if you're, us, that if you kind of listen to that, that can kind of help push you.
Yeah, and guide you.
No one really talks about that.
Well, you can't change anything you don't first acknowledge, right? So I had low self-esteem, skinny little kid at Wesley. And for me, it's like I could have conformed to that narrative. Well, fuck that. I want to become
it's a strong
the best
swear jar. That's
Is that
$2.
$3?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
And it really was. We self-impose.
Yeah.
We limit ourselves, and we create these bullshit stories. I talk about the victim story, and most people in life spend more time in creating and living their victim story than they do about getting off their ass and creating a life. For instance, so you got to appreciate a couple of significant moments. So I left school, had to get a job. I went into printing. Far out. I hated that job. I hated that job with a passion, but I needed money. And believe me, I wasn't a good printer. So here I am. I'm on like $7 an hour. And I knew that I had to improve myself. And a session with my coach was like $80 an hour. It was way out of my budget. I remember I was so committed. I sold everything to have those lessons. Again, education is the key. And education into your passion. Remember, education doesn't finish when you finish school here. Education is a lifelong pursuit, right? And I remember I'm at work and we talk about life by design, not life by default.
Yep.
And there was a beautiful man who I worked with, me and Joe. Joe was a lovely Rarotonga man who was my boss, superior on the printing press. And I remember management come over and asked Joe, can you work this weekend? And Joe went, yeah. And I was very close to Joe because he was quite a quiet man, very, very humble man, beautiful guy. Unfortunately, he's passed away now, but anyway. And I remember going around the reels, and Joe at that point was about 60. And he was behind the reels, and I could see he was upset. And this is significant moments for me. And I said, Joe, what's wrong, man? And he goes, it was my granddaughter's birthday tomorrow, and I wanted to go to the birthday. And I said, well, far out, man. Just say flipping no. What the? But he was worried about his job. And I thought, is that how you're going to live the rest of your life? I'm a true believer in saying no. So that for me was significant enough because I respected Joe, and I thought, you know what? I've got to change my life. And I used to get excited about overtime on a printing press, which I had it. It just didn't make sense to me. So for me now, I work a 20-hour week. I work 4 days a week. For 30 years, I've been working 4-day working week, which I designed. Am I a multimillionaire? No, but, I have a very nice life.
Yeah.
You know how much I charge.
And a nice car.
And a very nice car. But you got to appreciate that if you go back to that kid at 16 who was constantly told, I used to get excited about how the teacher would write the F. I remember school C English. I remember going in there and I'm so anxious and my self-esteem is so low. I went in there and I remember you had to write your name in the hall. Everyone's on the desks. Your time starts now. All right. You can turn your papers over, write your name. I put the pen down. Seriously, because I thought, what's the freaking point? I'm going to fail anyway. Waited for half an hour because then you can legally leave. And off I went to a rugby game. That is a sad way to live life. Do you know what I mean? And here I am today. I get excited about tests and essays, but I had to learn to reframe that.
When you're working with, doesn't matter if it's an All Black or Izzy or anyone who achieves at the highest level, dreams that we all secretly hope that we can reach. It's the same rule applies. It matters
simple principles.
How you talk to yourself.
Well, I think it starts with identify your vision. A lot of it in life is about the quality of the questions you ask yourself, right? So the quality of your life is directly related to the quality of the questions you ask of yourself and others. So I started asking myself a better question. Again, you need to identify what's your victim story, and we're in a modern society where we're compared and it's so easily influenced by bullshit, right? So I started with a vision. Always work with the end in mind, right? So with your goal setting process, most people are taught the goals as in the SMART test, and they talk about being realistic. I'll tell you something now, guys. How much have I got in the swear jar?
-7. And you've got enough. Go.
Can I?
Do it.
Fuck being realistic. Fuck that. People say to me, what do you need to be a success? And I'm going to be blunt. There's nothing massively complicated about this. You simply need 100 trillion cells. Every single one of you got everything you need to do whatever you want. What's important is you identify what you want, and you have to have a tenacious resolve to make it a reality. I worked my ass off. I'm proud to say that I've probably creamed over 800 books. In fact, I have a text today from Lamplight Books because I purchase books weekly. I'm a big reader. How many of you love reading? I'll tell you now, that should be a part of your discipline. You should be reading. Seriously. The most powerful thing that you can to advance yourselves is in the stories and in the books in history of people that have done it. And I'm proud to say, drum roll please, I'm releasing a book. I was approached by a publisher, and the book currently is in print, and it'll be out soon. Please purchase.
Will you be having a launch party that we can come to? We'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about that later. So, I think the key thing is the foundation is I've got 100 trillion cells. So therefore, I am capable of creating whatever I want. Now, the important thing here is that intentions and attentions need to align, because there's a lot of people that are deluded. They have these great intentions, but they're not prepared to align it with attention and doing the things that you have to do. When they become aligned, the bottom line is this: we behave our way to success. So, little story for you, okay? So isn't it interesting how history, we still get that little bit of anxiety, right? Now, I'll tell you something, guys. If you get anxious about something, that's a gift. That's a gift. Because if you truly want to have the best out of life, when you can overcome those things, for a lot of people, for me personally, one of the first ones was public speaking. Are you serious? No way. I had an opportunity in Vegas, and I went and talked, and I'm very blessed with a wonderful wife who had a replacement shirt, because my excuse was, I've sweated through this one, I can't go on stage. Here's the other one. Get out there. So it's important to have the support network. You know what I mean? And be careful who you surround yourself with. That is another biggie. We have done tests where if you find a lethargic rat and put it into a cage of hyperactive rats, that rat will become hyperactive. You get a hyperactive rat and put it into a cage of lethargic rats, it too will become lethargic.
If you're a UFC fighter or an All Black, you can choose who you want to be around. What if you're us? What if you can't choose your family?
Well, you can't choose your family, but you can certainly choose the decisions each and every day when you're not with family. You can choose to come to school. I'll guarantee you, the one thing that the teacher wants more than anything is to show up with the right attitude. If you show up, what's the flipping point, like I did, you are ripping yourself off. You come with the right attitude. And what was the underlying philosophical state to be in is be curious. When you become curious, you may unlock some magic about areas. So I'll guarantee you, you guys have some subjects that you challenged with and others that you really enjoy. I'll tell you something. I remember going to the YMCA in Papakura at 15 on the bench press, 60 kgs, and I failed. And I had to roll this thing and bang on the floor. Oh, man. Now I've gone from doing 60 kgs to 220. I'm telling you, when you get curious about PE and looking at you as the most incredible project, if it starts with strength, that's where I want you to go. Because what it does is build some momentum to build some self-esteem, to look at other parts of your life. An investigated life is a life lived, not just settling. Don't settle for a life that is less than what you deserve. And that means that you have to work hard and you have to take risks. And especially for me, I remember walking down the corridor of Comprint where I worked in Manukau. The manager came up to me and said, Dave, what's this bullshit about you doing this mental, psychological stuff? Mate, you only just managed to pass your apprenticeship. And he was right. I got 51%. And I didn't know how to respond to that because I had nothing to respond with. I haven't got any evidence, but I had a dream. Now, years later, I'm at Gulf Harbour Country Club for the New Zealand Golf Open, sitting with my clients, Lydia, Cecilia, Michael Hendry, and some of the others that have won. And that guy came up, and I saw him coming. I intercepted him, and he went, "Oh, Dave, you've done really, really well." Now, this guy's a real golf freak, right? And he went, "Oh, is there any chance you can introduce us, get an autograph?" And I'm still shaking his hand. And I said, "Do you remember what you said to me in the corridor of Comprint 10 years ago?" And he went a little bit white, and yeah, he knew. And I'm still shaking his hand. I said, "I guess I did all right, eh, Wayne?" He went, yeah. Now, please excuse yourself because I've got no more F left, right? Now, I'll tell you something. Success is the best revenge. When others don't believe in you and you overcome and create, it is the coolest thing, man. And again, a lot of people are told, "Well, that's terrible." I use that as fuel. That guy's voice, those words, and I couldn't respond. I use that in the gym. I use that at the library. I use that every day. Success is the best revenge. And I'll tell you fundamentally, every single teacher in this school wants nothing more than seeing you guys out there becoming leaders and being successful in life, being happy. That is the biggest compliment you can give your teachers. And I think teachers are one of the most important resources that you guys potentially could be tapping into. First and foremost, by bringing the right attitude to class and by engaging. I am blessed with some beautiful teachers. Unfortunately, those teachers appeared because of my attitude later on in life. If only there's only one man that really stood out for me at Wesley, and that was the Reverend Jim Kane. And he gave me a book at 13. And it was a book called Jonathan Livingston Seagull. And that book started the whole process for me. I could see myself in Jonathan not wanting to be part of the flock, but wanting to be more than all the other crowds, so to speak. Isn't it? Nietzsche talked about a transition where most of us are conditioned to be camels and serving the dragon. They say yes. I go back to Joe, who said yes. You have to have the courage to make the transition to be the lion. And the lion says no to what everyone else dictates you to. And the final transition is to the child. And a child is curious and fearless. So there's some beautiful metaphors in there, man.
So just two things. Dave, I'll ask you one more question, which is future focused, but also putting out the call to our students to start thinking about your question. Run this conversation back in your mind. One of the questions that hopefully you asked yourself, like I asked mine, was, what's the name of the book you're writing? That could be a question. That's right. So we'll start over here. So you've locked that one in. Very good. You win this week. Okay.
Yeah, what is the name of it?
Well, hold on. And as we kind of, I guess, wrap this up, or try and loop it, right? Because the journey's still continuing. We've talked a bit about your past. What about the future? What are you aiming for? Where are you putting that energy? What is hopeful for you?
Okay, so the future now is about finishing my degrees and to continue educating myself. I've really fallen in love with it. What I like right now is the next phase of my life is slightly slowing it down a little bit. I've been 30 plus years in the industry. I'll probably start moving towards 2-3 days a week. I've done well, and so my wife and I will probably semi-retire.
Yeah.
My life for me is about waking up and walking along the beach with the dog, sitting down, having coffee, spend time with my wife. My children are all grown up doing their own things. I'm preparing to be a granddad. And I love the idea of just sitting down, reading. I'll have a few clients. I love the gym, absolutely love training. So yeah, it's, and enjoying being present.
Can you believe that it worked?
Oh no, I
Seriously, man?
I sometimes pinch myself.
Yeah.
I look back and I'm really proud of myself. The coolest thing, is overcoming. And I'll tell you, the key thing for me, first one was the bullying. So what did I do? I got physically strong, right?
Yep.
The next thing, like I said, where fear lies, the next one for me was public speaking. I overcome that. I get paid very good money to talk on stage.
And nothing today, by the way.
And I'm that confident. No. And the last is academia. Now, I'll tell you something. I started my degree at 50. And I still to this day remember my first subject was justice and equality. I've never done university. And I remember, the submit button. Do you want to submit this? My first essay, you kidding? Yes. I'm 50 years. I'm going back to that child. Submit. Then you get the confirmation your paper has been submitted. And then the next anxious moment was you get the email saying your paper has been marked. And I remember clearly I was thinking, man, if I don't pass this, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm really worried because I'm based my essay, my writing, my whole career, historically at school. And it came through, and I remember I'm in the kitchen, and it comes through, and I said, I've just got to go and check something in the office. And the light is that night. The lights are on, so you can see into my office. And I clicked to see I got a B+. Now, I'm an ex-New Zealand strongman. I used to work on the door, so I used to do bouncing work, pubs and whatnot, kicking drunken idiots out on a printing press for minimum wage. And I consider myself on the paddock because I played rugby and rugby league, strongman, powerlifting champion. I'm a hard man. I looked at my score. I burst into tears, man. I'm there crying. My wife's going, what the? So are you what? Because I hardly ever cry. I'm the guy at the funeral who's doing all the talking, I passed. And that then was, I am absolutely committed to being an A client. I want an A now. It took me 3.5 years because I'm doing it part-time to get my first A. And the satisfaction, I had a little affirmation on my computer. It says A+ is most like me. And I feel like I'm bullshitting myself every time I put that on there, right? Because I've got the history to say otherwise. And when that A came through, I realized, man, you're capable of more. Let's go. What next? Let's maintain it.
Yeah.
Love it.